اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Last night we discussed many things, the rights of family members. We talked about the rights of mother, the rights of the father, the rights of the spouse, and the rights of the children. We mentioned a narration about respecting others, that we said that Imam Hussein alayhi salam never walked ahead of Imam Hassan and never spoke first in public in order to honor and respect him. We said that respecting one another is essential for society, so that we do not have wars, we do not have enmity, there won't be any conflicts. We said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respected mankind. We said the ayat, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, and Allah says, indeed we have dignified, we have honored mankind. So we spoke about these rights, mother, father, spouse, and children. So inshallah tonight I want to continue on with this topic, with discussing the rights of other people. We spoke about family, now we'll speak about some other groups that are also worthy of respect. The first group is respecting due to Islam, or on the basis of Islam, because they are Muslims. We have a beautiful story from our 8th Imam, Imam Rida alayhi salam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
He did a lot of good things towards the servants, and he treated them with a lot of respect. One of the companions of the Imam alayhi salam, he reported that he was on a journey with Imam on the way to Khorasan. And then they brought out the sufra and they put the food. The servants had the food and the Imam went to sit with the servants. The companion, he said, you know, Imam, I think it's better if we take the servants' food and we separate it and sit over there. But the Imam, he got angry with the man. He got upset with him because of this. And he said that the Lord, blessed and exalted, is one. Our mother is one, like our mother and father, Adam and Hawa. And the reward will be according to the deeds. He didn't accept this. He sat and he ate with the servants. This is our 8th Imam. It said there was black servants and non-black servants. They respected. They didn't make any differentiation between black or white, or this nationality or that nationality. We see that Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, they did a lot in order to abolish racism and discrimination, and to show that they were all in one place, in one mosque, and that nothing differentiated one to the other except taqwa and good deeds. We see that, for example, when it was time to call adhan, when the adhan was instituted, who did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam pick?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
He picked Bilal from Abyssinia, an African slave. He was freed at this time, but he was a former slave. He had so many Arabs that he could pick from there. The language is perfect. They could call adhan, great, but he chose Bilal to call adhan. And even some people used to complain about Bilal. They said, Bilal, he cannot pronounce Arabic letters all the way that are perfect. He says ashadu instead of ashadu. And he told them, Bilal's seen in the eyes of Allah is sheen. That he showed them, he put this African servant in such a high position that he would call adhan for them, in order to break this system of racism that we see is still all the way present until today, unfortunately. So respecting others due to Islam, we have to respect them because we are all brothers and sisters in Islam. Our 7th Imam said the real believer is the real brother of the believer. And even though his parents may not have given birth to him, it doesn't matter we're related by blood or not. We are related by faith. We are related by Quran, by Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, by Walayat. We are all one member, we are all one big family, we can say. Our sixth Imam, he said, what are the minimum rights of one believer over his believing brother? He said that he should give a higher priority to his brother's urgent needs more so than his own needs. So how can we begin to feel this right of our brother in faith when we always think of ourselves first before we think of someone else? We make sure that we are taken care of, that we are not hungry, and then we see someone else hungry, we feed them. We have to do the opposite. We have to make sure that all of our brothers and sisters in faith, the ones that we know, they are okay, they are in need. We should look around us and see how they are. And this is what Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam taught us. Our fifth Imam, Imam Bakr alayhi salam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
He said, love your Muslim brothers and like for them what you like for yourself. Ask them for help if you need anything, and fulfill their needs if they ask you for help. Don't hide anything from them that is good, as they are your supporters. When they are not present, support them in their absence until they return. Then go to see them when they return. Honor them, since you are from them and they are from you. If they blame you, don't abandon them. And let them express whatever bothers them. They have something on their chest, let them get it out, let them say it, and we can make amends with it. He says, praise Allah when they get something good. I mean, not to have hasad, not to have jealousy. When you see something good in your brothers, alhamdulillah, that's great. Be happy for them. He says, and help and support them when they suffer a calamity. Respect your friends and consider them to be honorable, and don't interfere with one another in an impolite way. We should never let the veil of respect be torn between each other, because this leads to rupturing the relationships. We should not joke with each other in an impolite way or rude way, or say degrading things to each other, even in joking. You see this sometimes when a youth, they're joking with each other, saying some very bad things, you know. But when this happens, the veil of respect is torn, and they're not honored anymore by that person. They said, oh, you let that person disrespect you, anybody can disrespect you. We have to have honor, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored us. And our sixth Imam, he said, the believer's respect is much more than that of the holy Kaaba. Subhanallah. We would never want to disrespect the Kaaba or do anything in Masjid al-Haram that would be disrespectful, but at the same time, we may disrespect our believing brother. But our believing brother has more respect than Kaaba, Imam says. So we have to care for each other and treat each other out with respect based on the belief that we have, the commonality of Islam and walayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Seek nearness to Allah by sympathizing with your religious brothers. So this is one of the ways to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to sympathize and be kind with your religious brothers. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, people will commit slips, they will make mistakes, they may act wrong, willfully or by neglect, on purpose or on accident. Maybe they'll make mistakes. He said, so extend to them your forgiveness and pardon in the same way that you would like Allah to extend His forgiveness and pardon to you. We always want and we ask Allah to forgive us. And when someone does something to us, we hold that grudge for I don't know how long. We don't want to forgive them at all. But we want Allah to forgive us. And we make so many mistakes. So we have to show forgiveness and mercy due to our believing brothers. And this is a type of respect and honor that we owe them. The second category of people that we owe rights and we should respect is based on knowledge. Our fourth Imam, alayhi salam, he said, the right of the one who trains you through knowledge is magnifying him, respecting his sessions or his majalis, listening to him well, attending to him with devotion. You should not raise your voice towards him, your teacher, and you should never answer anyone who asks him about something in order that he answers first. You should not speak to anyone in his session, nor speak ill of anyone with him. If anyone speaks ill of him in your presence, then you should defend him. You should conceal his faults and publicize his virtues. You should not sit with him in enmity or show hostility towards him in friendship. If you do all of these things, Allah's angels will bear witness for you that you went straight to him and you learned knowledge for the sake of Allah and not for the sake of people. We also have hadith from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, beware, don't falsify the words of an alim. Don't reject his statements and don't bear enmity towards him. Be friendly with them, because friendship with the learned is a sign of good akhlaq, and enmity with them is a sign of hypocrisy. He says, beware, whoever insults an alim insults me, and whoever insults me insults Allah. Whoever insults Allah, his abode will be in Jahannam. Yet whoever honors an alim honors me, and whoever honors me honors Allah, and whoever honors Allah, his abode will be in Jannah. He also said that we should be of three types. Either we should be an alim, a scholar, or a talib, a seeker of knowledge, or one of those who loves the scholars. And he said, don't be of any other group. To hate the scholars leads towards destruction. He who humiliates a person of knowledge has indeed humiliated me, and whoever humiliates me is disbeliever. So we have to show honor and respect to ulama, those who are having the conditions of ulama. They are knowledgeable, they are just, and these type of things. Abu Hamza al-Thumali, he said that once Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said he said, Imam said to me, be a scholar or a student or love the scholars. Don't become the fourth group because you will be destroyed because of hating them. And we must be careful not to say negative things against ulama, even if we don't agree with their opinions. Maybe it's their ijtihad. They came to a different understanding than our marja, for example. But we shouldn't hate them and curse them and speak bad about them because of that. That is their ijtihad. They have their reasonings, they have their proofs. Maybe it's not binding on us to follow their conclusion, but some people take to extreme and start cursing other marja and things like this. An example of this, is our great scholar Sheikh al-Mufid. He had disagreements and different conclusions than his teacher, Sheikh Saduq. He even wrote a whole book refuting some of the beliefs of Sheikh Saduq, but he did it in a respectable way, academic way, not disrespectful. The same is for the book Luma Damashqiyya by Shahid al-Awwal, the famous book in Hausa for fiqh. We have Rawdatul Bahiyya fi Luma Damashqiyya. It's a critique of Luma Damashqiyya written by Shahid al-Thani. Shahid al-Thani criticized the works of Shahid al-Awwal, and he says, Shahid al-Awwal came to this conclusion, but me, due to my research, because such and such and such, I came to different conclusion. It's all done with respect. So we have to not fall into the trap of those who want to divide the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam by turning us against ulama because of different opinions. It's a great sin to accuse someone of something. And imagine accusing someone like a marja, for example, of being outside of Islam. Sometimes people go to such extent they do this. Most of the time it's done without even researching. They don't even know anything about that individual that they say things about. They only repeat what they hear without any type of proofs. You ask them, have you read any books of that scholar? No. Have you read any, heard any speeches from this scholar? No. Do you know anything about this scholar? No. I just heard that, he is such and such and we shouldn't listen to him. But why? Allah says if someone brings you news from somewhere, you should investigate. So we should look into and see what is going on before we come to and jump to conclusions. Our sixth Imam, alayhi salam, he said, the ulama, they are like lighthouses. When people are lost at sea at night, they are trying to find their way to land safely. So they search for these lighthouses to guide them towards their destination. This is how a scholar is in society. When people are trying to find their way and they're wandering right and left, they don't know which way is right, they don't know the difference between haq and batil, they look for the scholar. They should light the way for the people to go towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Mahdi, ajallah ta'ala. He said, when the incidents occur and take shape, meaning the labor, then turn to those who describe our narrations, since they are my proof and authority over you, and I am the authority of Allah upon them. Also, our Prophet ﷺ said, if one sets out on a journey to seek knowledge, Allah will lead him to the path that takes him to Jannah. The angels stretch their wings for the pleasure of the seeker of knowledge, and all that is in the heavens and in the earth. Even the whales in the ocean will ask Allah to forgive him. The excellence of the scholar over the other people is like the brilliance of the moon over other stars during a full moon's night. Scholars are the heirs of the prophets. The prophets didn't leave money as their inheritance, but they left knowledge as their legacy. Whoever acquires a share from this legacy has gained an enormous share. So we see that the emphasis that Rasulullah put on ulama. To show further excellence of scholar, Imam Qadam alayhi salam says, he said, speaking to a scholar, even at a trash collection, a garbage site, somewhere no one would want to be. Imam said, speaking to a scholar at a place people are dumping garbage is better than speaking to an ignorant person in a furnished palace. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah.
Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
He said, Ya Ali, Jibreel wished to become a human for 7 reasons, and one of those reasons was companionship with ulama. He also said, Imam Ali alayhi salam said to his son Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya, learn the religious questions, for the scholars are the heirs of the prophets. The scholars are the callers to Jannah and the guides to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some benefits that we can get from companionship with ulama is that a person, maybe he gets a good advice from them while he's spending time with them. Maybe he gets a beneficial story that will stick with him and help him. Maybe he gets his questions answered that he had for many years. And that way he'll be able to solve all of his religious obligations. They will call you to what is right. They will correct you if you get off the path. Also, another narration says that associating with scholars brings one respect. And we know this, of course, because people would want to be associated with people of knowledge. Whatever the field is of knowledge, people would want to be seen with people of knowledge. And people would not want to be known by being around people that are ignorant. Ignorance is something that is against our aql. No one wants to be ignorant, and no one would like to be called ignorant. Even if they were ignorant, they wouldn't like to be called ignorant. It's something against our nature. But if someone who is ignorant, even if he is called knowledgeable, it's, oh, you are so smart. Even if he is not smart, he would love to be called smart, you know? It's something in our nature. After we see all these great merits of becoming scholars in Islam, it encourages us and motivates us to learn more about the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and appreciate the level that scholars have. So these ulama, they have been studying for, decades and decades, 50 years maybe, all the effort they had to put in. When we look at the ulama in Najd, those who stayed during the time of Saddam, God knows what they had to go through in those times. I remember watching a video recently about Sayyid Hakim, rahmatullah alayh, about his time in the prison, what he had to go through by staying there and being an alim present in Najd. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Holy Quran, Allah will raise those who have believed among you and those who were given knowledge by degrees, and Allah is acquainted with what you do. I once read this one interesting proverb. It was a Japanese proverb. It said, the man who stands at the greatest height is the loneliest man in the realm. And I thought about it, And when it comes to the ulama, they are respected by society, but they are also not associated with. This is the general case, and I can attest to this by knowing many ulama. We are always talking to each other, and they all complain of the same thing, that they are lonely. They have no friends. They are all alone. They go to center and maybe see some people, but no one checks on them, no one calls on them, no one hangs out with them. Maybe it's because they feel intimidated to spend time with an alim, or maybe they say that, I cannot be myself, maybe they will judge me or something like this. But, whatever the case is, we see that the benefit of companionship with scholars is something so great that Jibreel wished to leave the heavens with everything there to come to the earth, become a human, and suffer all of the things that we did just to get the thawab of having friends that were ulama. Before, I started my House of Studies 2013, whenever I would go to the Husseiniya, I would always want to be with the alim. I was always around them. I would sit with them, I would eat with them, I would ask them questions, I would watch how they interact with each other, how they're interacting with other people, learning the adab of the scholars. I would show them my books or my research that I had come to conclusions from different ayat and different hadith to see if I was on the right way. Did I come to the right conclusions or not? I knew that if I wanted to better myself and work on my spirituality, I needed to cling on to them. So whenever I saw an alim, I was always with them. I never leave them alone. So, associating with the scholars benefited me in a lot of different ways. It helped me become a better person. And I quite frequently remember the advices that they would give me as I go through life. I remember such and such scholar told me this, and alim told me that. Whenever I see the situation, I remember. And it's a blessing that we shouldn't cast aside, just throw away, So don't look at the scholars as unapproachable figures, but know that they would love your friendship and they would welcome your friendship. We're normal people also like to hang out and spend time with others. As those of you who have spent time with me while I'm here, we have a great time when we are out.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
The next is respect due to those who you give advice to. One time there was an elderly man who sat to do his wudu, but his wudu, it wasn't right. And Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they were young boys, but they noticed that this elderly man's wudu was not correct. But they hesitated to tell him, because if they told him directly, perhaps the old man would take offense. What are these two young boys telling me about my wudu? This is how sometimes, unfortunately, it is. So he maybe would feel humiliated by them. So they told him, I want you to, he said, Hassan said, my wudu is better than your wudu. Imam Hussein said, my wudu is better than your wudu. And they said, let's get this man to judge. He's an elder. Let him judge us with our wudu. So he asked them, tell us which one of our wudu is better. So after he watched them do the wudu, he realized it is me who had made a mistake. And my wudu is wrong. And I appreciate it so much that you came and advised me in this way and not directly. It was such more different effect. Because we have to advise other people, in the best of way. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Holy Quran, He says, "Ud'u illa sabila rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'idati al hasana wa jaddilhum illati hiya ahsan." And invite to your Lord with wisdom and with kind advice, and only debate with them in the best manner. So we have to advise people gently, in a nice way. sincerely wishing for their guidance, not to be harsh to them, or, some people want to advise people in a way they're talking down on them, or they want to humiliate them in front of other people, and they want to expose their mistake and make themselves seem better than the other person. And we shouldn't try to make ourselves seem better than other people. Look at Nabi Musa and Harun, alayhi salam. They were sent to Fir'aun, the worst person of their time. This person said he was Allah, na'udhu billah. They were sent to admonish him, but look how Allah instructed them to admonish him. فَقُولَا لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. He said, both of you must speak with him in a gentle way, so that perhaps maybe he comes to himself and he fears his Lord. So if Fir'aun was one of the worst oppressors of his time, is given the courtesy of not being advised harshly, then who are we to treat our brothers and sisters in faith in a harsh way? So we should advise our brothers and sisters in faith with kindness and with mercy, sincerely hoping that they take the advice and change their way. We should also advise them in a private way, not publicly to humiliate them. As our 11th Imam, he said, whoever admonishes his brother secretly has decorated him, and the one who admonishes him openly and publicly has vilified and rebuked him. So when advising each other, we have to always advise them of what is best for them, what is true, what is correct. And we should speak the truth no matter even if it is hard to hear. The Prophet told Salman al-Farsi, tell the truth even if it is bitter. Sometimes we have to take medicine, right? And we don't like it, but it tastes bad, but we need it because that's what's going to give us the healing. Sometimes the truth is a little bit hard to swallow, but we need to hear it. But it should also be done in a merciful way. We always hear in Quran, وَتَوَصَّى بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَصَّى بِالصَّبْرِ, and advise with truth, and advise with patience. There's another ayah similar in Surah Al-Balad, وَتَوَصَّى بِالصَّبْرِ وَتَوَصَّى بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ. Advise with patience and advise with mercy. So we have to be merciful to each other. And if we look at this task of advising other people, it's very tiresome. It's very difficult. I think the only other people I know that can, relate to this are doctors. Because doctors, they're always giving advice to people, but people are always telling them they are wrong, and they don't know what they're talking about. And I read on Google such and such of my symptoms, and all of these other things, and they think they are knowing, but you are the one with the doctor experience for, 8 or 10 or 12 years, school. But someone comes and tells you are wrong. It's very difficult, and tiring at times to give advice to other people. Someone may get so frustrated in giving advice to others that he would want to give up on it at all. He doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. But we have to look at Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, who gave advice to his people for 950 years. Subhanallah. In the end, only a handful of people followed him. Most of us will give up after the first year, and some of us maybe we give up after the first day. It's very difficult. So sometimes we face rejection. Sometimes we will be made fun of. Sometimes maybe we will even get cursed at. But the prophets faced all of this and even more when advising people. So when advising people, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of determination. And when we are genuinely caring about our brothers and sisters in faith, we will be concerned for them and we will care for them, and it will come from our heart that we want to give them advice. The last group of people I want to mention is people in general, just mankind, not Muslim, not only them, but everybody in humanity. My brother alayhi salam,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
He said, do good to all people, whether they be worthy of it or not. Even if they don't deserve it, you should be worthy of doing good. And we learn this valuable principle from our 8th Imam, which will help us in our day-to-day interactions. We see a flawed mentality that is in society today, that we should only do good to others who, do good to us. And if someone treats us bad, then we should treat them bad, or we should even do worse than that to them. And, you know, it's not what the Prophet taught us, it's not what Ahlul Bayt taught us. They were the best examples for mankind. Allah says this is due to the mercy from Allah that you deal with them gently, and had you been rough or hard-hearted, they would have certainly dispersed around you, pardoned them, and asked pardon for them. This is Surah Al-Imran, ayat 159. Another ayat, Surah 60, ayat 8 and 9. Allah does not forbid you from those who do not fight you because of the religion and do not expel you from your homes, from being righteous towards them and acting just towards them. Indeed, Allah loves those who are just. And recall, Surah Baqarah, ayah 83. And recall when we took the covenant from the children of Israel, enjoining on them, do not worship except Allah, and to parents do good, and to relatives, orphans, and the needy, and speak to people good words, establish prayer, and give zakat. Then you turned away except a few of you, and you were refusing. The part of this ayat I want to mention, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take notice that He says لِلنَّاسِ. He didn't say لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ, لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. This would be exclusively to say good words to Muslims, to say good words to believers. He says لِلنَّاسِ. This means it is indiscriminate of a person's religion, of their race, of their nationality, of their creed, or of their faith. It doesn't matter. Allah says speak good to everybody. This is one of the rights that we can give mankind, how we can respect mankind. Didn't Imam Ali alayhi salam say people are of two types? Either they're your brother in religion or your equal in humanity. While seeking advice, last thing I mentioned, while seeking advice about doing tabligh, I mentioned some part of this advice before on another night, but I was asking Marja Sayyid Muhammad Taqi al-Mudarrisi about advice on doing tabligh in the West. He told me, don't attract people with money or with power, but attract them with akhlaq, with ilm, with knowledge and morality. He said, because people don't see your knowledge, they only see your akhlaq. So akhlaq, he said, is like a beautiful apple. If it is attractive to those who see it, they will want to reach out and take it, and take a bite of it. And once people approach you due to your akhlaq, then they see what is inside of that apple. So once they approach, they see beautiful akhlaq on you, they will approach you and they want to hear what you have to say, and then they will hear the knowledge. But if the outer appearance of this apple is rotten, it's a rotten fruit, no one will want to reach for that apple. No one will even approach it. They won't want to see what is inside of it. So if we have all the knowledge, and we have all of these hadith memorized, Quran memorized, many lessons memorized, but if we have bad akhlaq, no one will want to take anything from us. And he said, always behave with people in a good and forgiving way, no matter who they are. Whether they are Jews, whether they are Christians, whether they are Muslims, whether they are non-Muslims, whether they are Christians, whether even if they are criminals, because they can always seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the way Hurr bin Yazid al-Riyahi, the companion of Imam Hussein, sought forgiveness and went to Imam Hussein alayhi salam.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
قدم الله أجورنا وأجوركم أيها المؤمنون بالمصابنا بمصيبة الحسين عليه السلام. There were many youths who came and fought and died defending their imam, such as the sons of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil. But tonight we want to remember two princes from Bani Hashim, the sons of Sayyid Zainab and Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar. They always treated their uncle Imam Hussein with the utmost respect. They were eager to lay their life down for Imam Hussein. We can picture the scene where the Imam, he looks around and he sees all of his companions have been killed. He looks around and sees the lifeless bodies of his friends like Habib ibn Mudahir, Jawn, Zuhair, and the others. Now he is surrounded by the youth of Karbala, the children of Bani Hashim. The difficult moment has come for Abu Abdullah to have to choose which one of his nephews he will send out to die in front of him. Aoun and Muhammad, they returned to their tent to console their mother Zainab. She was grieving the death of Ali Akbar. As they entered the tent, they saw her sitting by the body of Ali Akbar with a candle in her hand. She was looking at the body of Ali Akbar, who she brought up like her own son, the one who looked just like Rasulullah. When she saw them entering the tent, she called them to come sit near the body of Ali Akbar. She said, "My children, do you know what tomorrow has in store for us? It will be a day of trial. It will be a day when the blood of our family will flow like water. It will be a day on which all the hatred nurtured by the enemies of Islam, the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, will be unleashed on us. I want you both to defend your uncle Hussein and his children, giving your lives for them. Please don't make me ashamed in front of Sayyidah Zahra that I would have to say that I prefer the life of my own sons over the life of her son." Her love for her sons was surging within her. She was feeling as if her heart was getting squeezed in that moment, picturing her young sons dying as shaheed. How hard it must be to send your sons off to their deaths. Hearing their mother talk this way made them very emotional. How hard it must be to say the last farewell to your mother. Zainab went over to her brother, Imam Hussein. She said, "My dearest brother, in my whole life I never asked you not for one favor. Now for the first time I'm asking you to grant me just one wish. Let my sons follow in the footsteps of Ali Akbar." Hussein looked at Zainab and then at her sons, Aoun and Muhammad. With her head bent, he replied, "Zainab, my dear sister, I find it impossible to deny your first and your last request, but granting this request makes my heart break." Turning to Aoun and Muhammad, he said, "My dear children, go forward to the battlefield. Fulfill your heart's desire to become shuhada. I'll soon be joining you." At this reply, the two young heroes felt delighted, even though they were surrounded by sorrows. They fell at their mother's feet, asking for her blessings. Zainab's grief at the parting of her children found its way through her tears, which were pouring from her eyes. She felt the urge to hug her young sons one last time, but she was afraid that it would unnerve them, so she held back. She whispered to them, "My beloved sons, may Allah be with you. May He grant you quick relief from the agonies that you will endure. It is Zainab's fate to enter the tragedies with no brothers, with no nephews, no one to console her. Wa Zainaba. My last request to you is to fight bravely and die bravely on the battlefield. So even though when I am a captive and I am sorrowful, your courage will give me comfort, a cherished memory to comfort me in the times of difficulties." She silently watched her sons mounting the horses, assisted by Abu Abdullah. Her lips were moving in dua. Her eyes were following the horses as they galloped into the battlefield. When they both got out of sight with a sigh, she fell down on the sand next to her tent as if she was lost in a trance. These two brothers, Aoun and Muhammad, they were defending each other against the enemies. The enemy was able to split them apart. They proceeded to strike Aoun on the head with a sword. When the other companions were struck and they fell, they called out to Hussein, "Ya Hussein!" But the blow to Aoun's head was so hard that the soul of Aoun left his body before it hit the ground. Ya Allah. Muhammad was defending the body of his brother when he also was struck with a sword and fell to the ground. He called to Imam Hussein to come to his side. "Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah." Abbas and Qasim knew that for Hussein to reach his nephews would be too much for him. Hussein reached the first place where Muhammad was. He bent over his body to find that he was losing too much blood. His life was fading fast. The child was gasping heavily. His throat was so parched that he was unable to speak clearly. Hussein put his ear down near Muhammad's mouth. Muhammad said, "My last salam to you, O uncle. Tell my mother, Zainab, that I have lived up to her expectations. I'm dying now bravely on the battlefield as she wanted me to. Give my last salam to Sayyidah Zainab. Console her as much as you can." These efforts made by the child just to say this, it exhausted him. After a few moments, he said, "Now that I'm beyond any help, oh uncle, please go over to Aoun and see if you can do something for him before it is too late." When he said these words, his soul left his body. Imam Hussein was struck with grief, but he couldn't wait there long. He hurried to where the body of Aoun had fallen. When he reached Aoun, he saw that he had already passed away. Imam Hussein had to lift Aoun's body, and he held it close to his heart. He started walking heavily back towards the camp with tears flowing in his eyes. He was marching towards the camp with the body of his nephew in his arms. Abbas came rushing towards the camp and he said, "Let me carry Aoun's body to the tent. You take the body of Muhammad. Ya Sayyidi, Abbas is still here to share in your burden, in your grief." Hussein handed over Aoun's body to Abbas. He went over to pick up the body of Muhammad. The two brothers, one old and one young, were each carrying the body of one young nephew. To imagine this sight is too much for our heart to bear. Wa Husayna wa musibata. On reaching their camp, Hussein and Abbas laid down the bodies of Aoun and Muhammad. All of the ladies came and were crying for Aoun and Muhammad. Wa wayla wa musibata. But where was Zainab, Ya al-Masa'ib? She wasn't crying loudly like she did for Ali Akbar. No, where was Sayyidah Zainab? They said that she was thanking Allah for her sacrifice of her two sons in the cause of Abu Abdullah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifada'ik. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزياراتكم. Altogether, السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين